Hey everyone, it's Jeremy here from StationOne with our version 3.0.0 release video. This is probably one of our most exciting releases that we've made to date, and we'll cover that in just a moment. Before that, I did just want to mention that our new inbuilt support desk ticketing system has been live for a week now, and we've been receiving support requests via that interface, which has been great. So it's certainly made our process internally quite a bit more streamlined in terms of being able to get your bugs or requests into the development phase. So we're equally hoping that change to that internal support mechanism has also been of a benefit to our users, and ultimately that was the aim, to really just reduce as much friction with that support process as we possibly could. So really great to see that being used and taken advantage of, and we've also responded to all of those requests that have come through in the last week. So great outcome on that front. Moving on to our releases in version 3.0, and quite possibly one of our most exciting releases or feature inclusions to date. And from our perspective, we certainly understand that different software platforms perform different functions, and it is also absolutely vital to have the right tools to perform the right jobs. Particularly in the case of StationOne, we've obviously designed that with an intent to fill in a lot of administrative and functional gaps that may exist in current tools. But we also don't want to move into the space of doing certain functions that other platforms can do better than we can. And we absolutely recognise that. And for that reason is why we have built our first third-party integration with the Xero accounting platform. We're aware that quite a number of brigades and units have adopted the Xero platform for purposes of managing their financial affairs, particularly for treasurers and the like. And we also recognise that Xero itself is obviously one of the market leaders in that accounting software space. So it certainly makes sense from our perspective that we don't try and recreate any of those features. We certainly want to make people's lives easier and jobs of administrating brigades and volunteer emergency services easier. And to that end, we need to identify where there is some common function between third-party platforms. And obviously in this case, the first one that we've identified is Xero. So StationOne obviously does have a asset manager platform built in, and when we released that feature, we did note that it is most certainly not a comprehensive financial asset manager from the perspective of performing depreciation and some of those other accounting functions that may happen in other asset registers. The purpose of ours is literally to be able to record stuff that exists within your unit, and then be able to allocate that to vehicles, link it to equipment, inspect it, do all of those sort of things that StationOne itself is really built around, which is that inspection compliance process. And for that end, we've now got the Xero integration, which allows two-way sync of assets. So Xero itself has its own asset manager, which can be tied to the financial purchase records of that piece of asset. So now we've enabled that two-way sync, which means people who are focused on managing your compliance records within the unit by means of inspection or allocating those particular assets to vehicles or to your members can perform all of those functions that they need to within StationOne, and your people responsible for financial matters can continue to perform all the functions that they need to do on assets equally in that financial space in terms of reporting and auditing on those. So it's quite simple to get started. It is fully documented, the steps on getting this working. This test environment here is already integrated to Xero, so you'll get to see how that looks from the perspective of integration. Firstly, in our unit settings tab, we've now got a new tab here called integrations. So if we go into integrations, you can see we've got Xero accounting as our first and only third-party integration at this stage. And in this particular case, you can see that this Xero accounting connector is actually connected to Xero, and we've got some real sync data that exists here. So it's telling us the last time it pushed and pulled data to and from Xero. We've also given a couple of options. This is non-destructive in terms of the bi-directional sync. So StationOne cannot delete assets from Xero, and likewise Xero cannot delete assets from StationOne, but it can sync up those objects where it identifies that they are the same asset. So we still do give you the option of having a two-way sync, or you may want to just push your StationOne assets into Xero, or pull any assets from Xero. So depending on what you define as potentially being the authoritative source, you can set this sync direction accordingly. And we've also got some category mapping as well. So this just ensures that any existing asset categories within the StationOne platform align to those categories within Xero. And this is obviously for the purposes of syncing in either direction, that we want to make sure that we get those categories mapped correctly. So you can see in this case, we've got some StationOne categories, which are here, and then we've mapped them to the categories that are coming in from Xero. So IT is computer equipment, we've got equipment, and so on. You can make more assets in either platform, and they'll show up in the mapping. So if you go into Xero and create a whole bunch of asset categories, you'll have those available to you through that mapping. From here, once it's connected, it'll do an initial sync. You can also force the sync. It's also running in the background and looking for any data changes on either of the platforms, depending on your sync setting. So if it does determine that there is a change in asset on the Xero side, obviously that will be replicated in StationOne and vice versa. So if we have a look now at our assets in our StationOne side, you can see here, so our quick cut saw, I know that this was originally created in StationOne, and we can see this asset's been pushed over to Xero. So created in StationOne, pushed to Xero, we can see the last sync date, and it's telling us that there is a $0 value on that in Xero. And then equally, if we come over and we have a look at this, so laptop Tracy is one of the assets that's come over to us from Xero. So we can see that this was created in Xero. We can see the last sync status, and we can see the book value in Xero. And then obviously we've got all of our StationOne values. You can see that that purchase price has been applied to StationOne, where it's been obtained from Xero. And then we can go about using our assets exactly as we normally would. There's no extra steps in any of that process. If we come over to our Xero and have a look at our demo company and look in our fixed assets option here inside Xero, what we'll see again is that asset state replicated. So you can see laptop Tracy is the one that was created. So this was a Xero asset. Originally, they've got some depreciation and stuff configured here in this demo company file. But then we can also see that quick cut saw here has been pushed over to Xero from the StationOne platform. So we can now manage this, or your financial members can manage this asset inside the Xero environment. If there is any transactions that relate to this and those kind of things, they can obviously do all of that financial work. I'm certainly not an expert in this space, but certainly have got this this integration working as we would expect. So you can see quite clearly that our assets have pushed in both directions in this case, and we can also do our asset category settings in here as well. So you can see in StationOne we had those three asset categories available for mapping, which was the computer equipment, equipment and office equipment. They're here, and we're not modifying your asset categories in Xero at all from the StationOne side. So these are strictly managed inside the Xero platform. But obviously you can create more or less of these if you need to. So as I said, really excited to introduce this to StationOne. I think it's it's a fantastic complement to the StationOne platform, and again it really prevents that area we're trying to avoid, which is creating more work for members and those kind of things in this particular case. So that will be available in the version 3.0 release. And as I said, that is fully documented as well. So there is information on the Xero integration. There is information and instructions on how to go through and set that up, and also perform that sync within the platform. So you may, to achieve this, most likely need a user who has Xero access to authenticate it for you. So it is using Xero's authentication mechanisms, which is required. So that does require a user who has access to Xero to be able to complete that integration for you. So that's just something to be aware of. But other than that, really easy to get set up and get going, and get that asset sync happening in Xero and StationOne. Moving on from there, we have now enabled two-factor or multi-factor authentication within the platform. So the next time that you authenticate or log into the platform, you'll receive a message to configure your two-factor authentication. This currently only applies to users who can log into the admin console, but it is the first step in rolling this out more broadly, including our station portal interface. So you will get the notification. You can ignore that for a couple of weeks. So we've put a soft launch on this two-factor leading up to a point where we will actually hard enforce the two-factor, and you will not be able to skip configuring that two-factor authentication. But from a point of user adoption, it's certainly much easier to do that staged approach. If at any time you want to configure your two-factor authentication, you can come into your profile. There's now a security tab here at the end. So if we click into that, you'll see the two-factor authentication settings here. So in this case, in this test environment, it's not actually configured yet. So we can set up two-factor authentication. We do support all of the common two-factor, multi-factor authentication apps. So things like Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator, Authy, 1Password, Bitwarden, etc. So pretty standard flow of scanning the QR code with your device that generates your two-factor codes. Or you can also use the SMS option. So put in your phone number, you'll get a SMS code sent to you. We're just in the process of having that correctly branded. So there's obviously a lengthy process now with some legislation requirements or changes where we have to apply to the ACMA to be able to send a text message that says it's from StationOne. So that application process is currently in progress. Until then, it may appear as just a regular mobile number until that's verified and it changes over. But that SMS function is fully functional at this point in time. So you can choose either between the Authenticator app or the SMS option for your two-factor authentication. You're not prompted every time you log in. There's some session handling and stuff happening in the background that's managing this. And at a point that the system determines that you need to be revalidated, you'll be re-prompted to perform that two-factor authentication. Likewise, if you're signing in on any new devices that you haven't previously signed in, you'll also be forced to do that two-factor once it's enabled as well. So just a part of improving our overall security posture with the platform. And as I said, this is the first phase, moving out to having this working in the station portal interface as well. The two-factor authentication system is also fully functional in the native app as well. So you can register, enroll, and go through that whole process from the native app and get prompted for two-factor codes and things like that within the native app as well. We've made a slight change to our purchase orders. Again, this has come from feature requests from our users, and that was to add a override here to allow admins to approve their own purchase orders. So we do have the purchase order approval workflow set up in the platform, and that's documented as well in our documentation site. However, in some cases there is a requirement that some of those people, particularly a captain or a unit controller or something like that, is raising a purchase order, and they may need to approve that themselves for whatever reason. We do have this override here, and it just has a note there. Obviously, the intent of this feature was to make sure that we maintained integrity with that approval process. So it does just note that obviously by doing this, that's going to have some implications on that. But if you're happy to override that, we've provided that option to you now as well. Finally, in terms of feature additions, we did lose a bit of time making sure that the Xero stuff was all working correctly this week. So it is a little bit light on features, but you'll notice there's now a custom reports tab in here. So this is our new custom report builder in effectively its first phase or first iteration. So you can now build out your own custom reports, and you can edit these, export them as PDF, CSV, whatever you need to. You can see, depending on what's been created in these custom reports, this one's targeting specific days for training and stuff like that. The custom report builder is quite intuitive, so you get a couple of options. So training, event, or event and training data combined. And then once we select one, we can give it a report name, a description, etc. And then we can come through and we can add data columns that are available. We can select days and various other options in here. So this is something that had been requested quite a number of times to give a bit more flexibility to our reporting interface. So we have, as I said, this is an initial phase of this, and obviously with any of the new features that we implement into the platform, we're really interested to get your feedback after you've had an opportunity to use something like this. So this is here now. You can do some point systems, so you can attach points similar to the way that our existing member activity report is working. And then obviously create your own reports. You can add a chart to these, a bar or a line chart at this stage, and then obviously have your reports generated. So you can see this one has a chart added to it, and then we can change our reporting parameters and stuff like that. And you'll see that the data is obviously updating in line with whatever parameters have been put into that custom report. So that is available in its first iteration, and please do provide feedback if you take advantage of this custom report builder. Beyond that, quite a number of minor changes have been made to various areas of the platform, which again are covered in our change log. So you can see obviously the change section here. There's quite a bit in there. We did a couple of weeks ago release a security change to our CSP, our content headers, and obviously that's monitored in the background by our monitoring and alerting platform. We are seeing every so often a couple of things potentially breaking as a result of that. It's important again that we maintain a strong security posture with the platform. So we have made a couple more changes with that, obviously noting that there has been some user-facing bugs arising as a result of that change. So we've addressed as many of those as we've got reported in the system, or have been reported by users themselves. Most notably was around some PDF attachment issues with regards to mobile devices, where desktop devices were able to view those PDF files and they were not able to be viewed on mobile devices. So some fixes in that space have been made, and we'll continue to monitor that through our alerting and monitoring platform to make sure that there's no further instances of that happening. But beyond that, we're super excited to have this release go out, particularly with that Xero integration. And like all of the features in the platform, thanks to those who have provided that feedback and those feature requests, we are working through those lists, and we actively encourage you to take advantage of those new features and provide as much feedback as you can after you've had an opportunity to do so, giving us any leverage that we need to either make any changes or uplift the functionality of any of those new features that have been added to the platform. So that's a wrap for the version 3.0 release. We will be back again in a week's time with version 3.1. Thank you for watching.